This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Megan Olson, Waxhaw, North Carolina, July 2007. Stepping Heavenward by E. Prentice. Chapter 10. April 20th. Yesterday I felt better than I have done since the accident. I ran about the house quite cheerily for me. I wanted to see Mother for something and flew singing into the parlor, where I had left her shortly before, but she was not there, and Dr. Elliot was. I started back and was about to leave the room, but he detained me.
"Come in, I beg of you," he said, his voice growing hoarser and hoarser. "Let us put a stop to this."
"To what?" I asked, going nearer and nearer, and looking up into his face, which was quite pale.
"To your evident terror of being alone with me, of hearing me speak. Let me assure you once for all that nothing would tempt me to annoy you by urging myself upon you as you seem to fear I may be tempted to do. I cannot force you to love me, nor would I if I could. If you ever want a friend, you will find one in me. But do not think of me as your lover, or treat me as if I were always lying in wait for a chance to remind you of it. That I shall never do, never."
"Oh, no, of course not!" I broke forth, my face all in a glow, and tears of mortification raining down my cheeks. "I knew you did not care for me. I knew you had got over it." I don't know which of us began it. I don't think he did, and I am sure I did not, but the next moment I was folded up all in his great long arms, and a new life had begun. Mother opened the door not long after, and seeing what was going on, trotted away on her dear feet as fast as she could. April 21st. I am too happy to write journals. To think how we love each other. Mother behaves beautifully. April 25th. One does not feel like saying much about it when one is as happy as I am. I walk the streets as one treading on air. I fly about the house as on wings. I kiss everybody I see. Now that I look at Ernest, for he makes me call him so, with unprejudiced eyes, I wonder I ever thought him clumsy. And how ridiculous it was in me to confound his dignity and manliness with age! It is very odd, however, that such a cautious, well-balanced man should have fallen in love with me that day at Sunday school, and still stranger that with my headlong, impulsive nature I deliberately walked into love with him. I believe we shall never get through with what we have to say to each other. I am afraid we are rather selfish to leave Mother to herself every evening. September 5th. This has been a delightful summer. To be sure, we had to take the children to the country for a couple of months, but Ernest's letters are almost better than Ernest himself. I have written enough to him to fill a dozen books. We are going back to the city now. In his last letter, Ernest says he has been home, and that his mother is delighted to hear of his engagement. He says, too, that he went to see an old lady, one of his friends of his boyhood, to tell the news to her.
"When I told her," he goes on, "that I had found the most beautiful, the noblest, the most loving of human beings, she only said, 'Of course, of course.' Now you know, dear, that it is not at all 'of course,' but the very strangest, most wonderful event in the history of the world." And then he described a scene he had just witnessed at the death-bed of a young girl of my own age, who left this world and every possible earthly joy with a delight in the going to be with Christ. That made him really eloquent. Oh, how glad I am that God has cast in my lot with a man whose whole business is to minister to others. I am sure this will, of itself, keep him unworldly and unselfish. How delicious it is to love such a character, and how happy I shall be to go with him to sick rooms and to dying beds. He has already taught me that lessons learned in such scenes far outweigh in value what books and sermons even can teach. And now, my dear old journal, let me tell you a secret
that has to do with life and not with death. I am going to be married. To think that I am always to be with Ernest, to sit at the table with him every day, to pray with him, to go to church with him, to have him all mine. I am sure that there is not another man on earth whom I could love as I love him. The thought of marrying of having that silly schoolgirl engagement end in marriage was always repugnant to me. But I give myself to Ernest joyfully and with all my heart. How good God has been to me! I do hope and pray that this absorbing love has not detached my soul from him, will not detach it. If I knew it would, should I have courage to cut it off and cast it from me? January 16th, 1837. Yesterday was my birthday, and today is my wedding day. We meant to celebrate the one with the other, but Sunday would come this year on the 15th. I am dressed and have turned everybody out of this room, where I have suffered so much mortification and experienced so much joy, that before I give myself to Ernest, and before I leave home forever, I may once more give myself away to God. I have been too much absorbed in my earthly love, and I am shocked to find how it fills my thoughts. But I will belong to God. I will begin my married life in His fear, depending on Him to make me an unselfish, devoted wife. January 25th. We had a delightful trip after the wedding was over. Ernest proposed to take me to his own home, that I might see his mother and sister. He never said that he wanted them to see me, but his mother is not well. I am heartily glad of it. I was glad to escape going there to be examined and criticized. Every one of them would pick at me, I am sure, and I don't like to be picked at. We have a home of our own, and I am trying to take kindly to housekeeping. Ernest is away a great deal more than I expected he would be. I am fearfully lonely. Auntie comes to see me as often as she can, and I go there almost every day, but that doesn't amount to much. As soon as I can venture to it, I shall ask Ernest to let me invite Mother to come and live with us. It is not right for her to be left all alone, so I hoped he would do that himself. But men are not like women. We think of everything. February 15th. Our honeymoon ends today. There hasn't been quite as much honey in it as I expected. I supposed that Ernest would be at home every evening, at least, and that he would read aloud and have me play and sing, and that we would have delightful times together. But now he has got me, he seems satisfied, and goes about his business as if he had been married 100 years. In the morning he goes off to see his list of patients. He is going in and out all day. After dinner we sit down to have a nice talk together. The doorbell invariably rings, and he is called away. Then in the evening he goes and sits in his office and studies. I don't mean every minute, but he certainly spends hours there. Today he brought me such a precious letter from dear Mother. I could not help crying when I read it. It was so kind and so loving. Ernest looked amazed. He threw down his paper, came and took me in his arms and asked, "What is the matter, darling?" Then it all came out. I said I was lonely and hadn't been used to spending my evenings all by myself. "You must get some of your friends to come and see you, poor child," he said. "I don't want friends," I sobbed out. "I want you." "Yes, darling, why didn't you tell me so sooner? Of course, I will stay with you if you wish it." "If that is your only reason, I am sure I don't want you," I pouted. He looked puzzled. "I really don't know what to do," he said, with a most comical look of perplexity. But he went to his office and brought up a pile of fusty old books. "Now, dear," he said, "we understand each other, I think. I can read here just as well as downstairs. Get your book and we shall be as cozy as possible." My heart felt sore and dissatisfied. Am I unreasonable and childish? What is married life? An occasional meeting, a kiss here and a caress there? Or is it the sacred union of the twain, who walked together side by